Captain Thomas Mitchell stood perfectly still outside Buckingham Palace, his red uniform immaculate and his expression stern. For 8 years, he had served as one of the Queen's guards, maintaining the same rigid posture for hours without moving a single muscle. His tall black hat, polished boots, and precise military bearing made him an impressive figure that tourists loved to photograph. Thomas took enormous pride in his role, understanding that he represented centuries of British tradition and excellence. The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace courtyard as hundreds of visitors gathered behind the golden gates. Thomas had been on duty since 6 in the morning, and it was now approaching noon. His legs ached, his back was sore, and sweat dripped down his face beneath the heavy bearskin hat, but he remained motionless. This was his duty, his honor, and his commitment to the crown that he had sworn to protect with his life. Thomas came from a long line of military men. His grandfather had served in World War II, his father in the Royal Navy. And now Thomas continued the family tradition of service. When he was selected to join the Queen's Guard after years in the regular army, his family celebrated it as the highest honor possible. The responsibility of guarding the royal family was something Thomas never took lightly. Understanding that millions of people around the world looked up to the guards as symbols of British strength and tradition. The crowds of tourists that gathered daily never ceased to amaze Thomas. People traveled from every corner of the globe just to see the famous guards in their distinctive red uniforms and towering black hats. Children pressed their faces against the palace railings, pointing excitedly at the motionless soldiers. Adults snapped countless photos, hoping to capture the perfect image of British pageantry and tradition that had remained unchanged for generations. Thomas had witnessed every type of behavior from tourists during his years of service. Some visitors tried desperately to make the guards laugh or smile, making funny faces, telling jokes, or performing silly dances. Others attempted to touch the guards or get too close, not understanding the serious nature of their duty. Occasionally, disrespectful tourists would mock the guards or make inappropriate comments. Not realizing these were highly trained soldiers who had served in combat zones around the world. Through it all, Thomas maintained his composure and discipline. He had been trained to ignore distractions, to remain focused on his duties regardless of what happened around him. The guards were not tourist attractions, despite how many people viewed them. They were active military personnel responsible for protecting one of the most important buildings in the United Kingdom. And Thomas never forgot that fundamental responsibility. On this particular Tuesday morning, Thomas noticed the usual mix of visitors gathering outside the palace, tour groups with matching caps and cameras clustered together, while guides explained the history and significance of the guards. Families with excited children pointed and whispered about the soldiers, who stood so perfectly still. Street performers entertained the crowds with music and magic tricks, creating a festive atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the serious military presence. Thomas had learned to observe everything while appearing to see nothing. His peripheral vision caught every movement, his ears detected every sound, and his mind constantly assessed potential threats or security concerns. This heightened awareness was essential for effective protection, allowing him to respond instantly to any dangerous situation that might arise near the palace grounds. The weight of his rifle, the heat inside his uniform, and the physical demands of standing motionless for hours were challenges that every guard faced daily. Thomas had developed techniques over the years for managing the discomfort without breaking his pose. He focused his mind on pleasant memories, mentally recited poetry, or planned what he would do during his time off duty. These mental exercises helped him endure the physical strain while maintaining the perfect military bearing that tourists expected to see. As the morning progressed, Thomas noticed a small commotion near the palace gates. A tour group was gathering for photographs, and several children were becoming particularly excited about seeing the famous guards up close. Thomas remained focused on his duties, but he couldn't help noticing one little girl who seemed different from the other tourists. She appeared to be around 5 years old, with curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes that sparkled with curiosity and innocence. The little girl wore a simple pink dress and carried a small stuffed animal that looked well-loved and cherished. Unlike the other children who were laughing loudly and running around, She stood quietly beside her parents, studying Thomas with intense fascination. There was something about her gentle demeanor and thoughtful expression that caught his attention. Even as he maintained his rigid military posture, Thomas had no idea that this innocent-looking child was about to do something that would change his life forever, challenge everything he believed about duty and protocol, and create a moment that would be shared around the world within hours. The encounter that was about to unfold would test his training, touch his heart, and remind him of the humanity that existed behind the uniform he wore with such pride and dedication. 5-year-old Emma Watson clutched her favorite teddy bear tightly as she stared up at the tall soldier in the bright red uniform. She had never seen anyone stand so perfectly still for so long, and it filled her with wonder and curiosity. Was visiting London with her parents from their small town in Wales, and this was her first time seeing the famous queens, guards that she had heard so much about in stories and seen in picture books. Emma was a gentle child who had always been sensitive to other people's feelings. At home, she would comfort her younger brother when he cried, help her grandmother with small tasks, and show kindness to animals and insects that others might ignore. Her parents often marveled at their daughter's natural empathy and caring nature, which seemed unusual for someone so young. Emma had a way of noticing when people were sad, tired, or uncomfortable. She always wanted to help make them feel better. As Emma studied Thomas standing perfectly motionless in his sentry box, she began to worry about him. The morning was getting warmer, and she could see tiny drops of sweat on his forehead beneath his tall black hat. His eyes stared straight ahead without blinking, and Emma wondered if he was tired or uncomfortable standing in the same position for such a long time. The little girl's kind heart ached as she imagined how difficult it must be to stand so still without being able to move or rest. "Mummy," Emma whispered, tugging on her mother's sleeve, "why doesn't the soldier man sit down? He looks very tired, and his hat must be very heavy on his head." Her mother, Sarah Watson, smiled at her daughter's concern and quietly explained that the guards had to stand very still because it was their job to protect the Queen in the palace. But Emma wasn't satisfied with this explanation because she could see that the soldier looked uncomfortable. Emma's father, David, was busy taking photographs of the guards in the palace, hoping to capture memories of their special family trip to London. Her mother was reading information from a guidebook about the history and traditions of the Queen's Guards. But Emma remained focused on Thomas, studying his face and posture with the intense concentration that only children possess when something captures their complete attention and concern. The little girl noticed that Thomas's uniform looked very warm and heavy. She observed how other tourists were wearing light summer clothes and seeking shade from the increasingly hot sun, while the guard had to stand in his thick red woolen coat with all its heavy buttons and decorations. Emma's young mind couldn't understand why someone would have to be so uncomfortable just to do their job, and her natural instinct was to find a way to help Dot. Emma had always been taught by her parents to be kind to others and to help people whenever possible. At home, she would bring her father a cool drink when he was working in the garden on hot days. She would fetch her mother's reading glasses when she needed them. And she always shared her toys with friends who didn't have as many. The idea of helping someone who looked uncomfortable or tired was as natural to Emma as breathing, as she continued watching Thomas. Emma began to form a plan in her innocent young mind. She remembered how her mother always gave her cool water when she was hot and tired after playing outside. She thought about how nice it felt when someone offered her a comfortable place to sit when her feet hurt from walking. Emma's childish logic told her that the guard must be thirsty and tired, just like she would be if she had to stand still and heavy. Closed for such a long time, the crowded area around the palace was filled with the sounds of multiple languages. As tourists from around the world gathered to see the famous sight, Emma heard people speaking in accents she had never heard before, saw families taking selfies with the guards in the background, and watched as children her age pointed excitedly at the soldiers. But while everyone else seemed to view the guards as tourist attractions or living statues, Emma saw Thomas as a real person who might need help and kindness. Emma's parents were distracted by the guidebook and photography, giving her a few moments to think about her growing concern for the guards' comfort She looked around and noticed several vendors selling cold drinks and ice cream to the hot, thirsty tourists. The little girl reached into her small pink purse, where she kept her precious pocket money that her grandmother had given her for the trip to London. Emma had been saving her money to buy a special souvenir to remember her visit to the palace. She had seen some beautiful postcards and small toys in the gift shops that she wanted very much. But as she looked at Thomas standing so still and serious in the heat, Emma decided that helping someone who looked uncomfortable was more important than buying something for herself. Her young heart was filled with genuine concern for this stranger, who couldn't even wipe the sweat from his face. The little girl's mind was made up. She would use her precious pocket money to buy something cold and refreshing for the guard who looked so hot and tired. Emma didn't know about military protocol, royal traditions, or the strict rules that governed the behavior of the Queen's guards. All she knew was that someone appeared to need help, and she had been raised to be kind and helpful to others whenever possible. What happened next would surprise everyone present and create a moment that would touch hearts around the world. Emma quietly slipped away from her parents while they were distracted by taking photographs and reading about the palace history. The little girl walked purposefully toward a nearby ice cream vendor, her small hand clutching the coins in her pink purse. The vendor, a cheerful, middle-aged man named Mr. Ahmed, smiled warmly as the tiny customer approached his colorful cart decorated with pictures of cold treats and refreshing drinks. "What can I get for you today, little princess?" Mr. Ahmed asked kindly, noticing Emma's serious expression and determined demeanor. Emma looked up at all the options available, studying the cold bottles of water, ice cream bars, and frozen treats with the careful consideration of someone making a very important decision. She wanted to choose something that would help the hot, tired guard feel better and more comfortable. "I need something very cold for the soldier man," Emma explained earnestly, pointing toward Thomas in his sentry box. "He looks very hot in his big red coat, and I think he's thirsty. Do you have something that would make him feel better?" Mr. Ahmed followed Emma's gaze and understood immediately what the compassionate child was trying to do. He had been selling ice cream and drinks near the palace for 15 years and had seen many acts of kindness, but never from someone so young. Mr. Ahmed was touched by Emma's thoughtfulness and decided to help her mission of kindness. "I have just the thing," he said gently, selecting a large bottle of ice-cold water from his refrigerated cart. "This will help him cool down on such a warm day. And because you're being so kind to someone else, this one is free for you, little angel." Emma's eyes lit up with gratitude as she accepted the cold bottle. Feeling its refreshing coolness against her small hands, Emma carefully made her way back through the crowd of tourists, holding the bottle of water like a precious treasure. Approached the area where Thomas stood at attention, her heart beating fast with nervous excitement about her plan to help the uncomfortable guard. The little girl had never done anything like this before, but her natural instinct to help others gave her courage to continue with her mission of kindness. Thomas noticed the small figure approaching from his peripheral vision, but he maintained his rigid posture and forward-facing gaze as required by military protocol. He had seen countless children approach the guards over the years, usually trying to get their attention or pose for photographs with their families. Thomas expected this little girl to take a quick photo and move on like most tourists did throughout the day, but Emma surprised everyone by walking directly up to Thomas's sentry box with quiet determination. She looked up at his face with her bright blue eyes full of genuine concern and kindness. "Excuse me, Mr. Soldier," she said in her sweet, clear voice that carried across the courtyard. "You look very hot and thirsty standing in the sun with your heavy coat. I brought you some cold water to help you feel better." The crowd of tourists nearby began to notice what was happening and started gathering around to watch this unexpected interaction. Parents pulled out their phones to record the moment, while other children stopped their playing to see what the little girl was doing. Even other guards at nearby posts became aware of the unusual situation developing at Thomas's position. Emma held up the bottle of cold water, stretching her small arms as high as she could reach toward the tall guard. "My mummy says the drinking cold water helps when you're hot and tired," she explained earnestly. "I used my pocket money to buy this for you because you look like you need it more than I need a souvenir from my trip to see the Queen's house." Thomas felt his heart skip a beat as he heard the little girl's innocent words and saw her genuine gesture of kindness. In all his years of military service, through combat deployments and ceremonial duties, no one had ever offered him such pure, selfless compassion. The child's simple act of caring touched something deep inside him that had been buried under layers of military training and professional discipline. The growing crowd held their breath as they witnessed this extraordinary moment unfolding. Everyone understood they were seeing something special, something that transcended the usual tourist experience of visiting the palace. Cameras continued recording as people realized they were witnessing an interaction that would be remembered and shared. Far beyond the gates of Buckingham Palace, Thomas faced an impossible choice that would test everything he had been trained to do. Military protocol demanded that he remain motionless and ignore all attempts by tourists to interact with him, no matter how innocent or well-intentioned. Breaking this protocol could result in serious disciplinary action, embarrassment to the regiment, and potential dismissal from his prestigious position as one of the Queen's guards. But looking down at Emma's hopeful face, seeing her small hands holding the bottle of water she had bought with her precious pocket money, Thomas realized that sometimes humanity must triumph over protocol. This little girl had shown him more genuine care and compassion than he had experienced in years of military service, and her innocent gesture deserved recognition and gratitude rather than cold rejection. The moment stretched endlessly as Thomas made his decision, knowing that whatever he chose to do next would change everything and create ripples that would spread far beyond the palace walls. In a moment that would be remembered forever, Thomas made a decision that went against 8 years of strict military training. He slowly looked down at Emma, his stern expression softening as he met her innocent blue eyes filled with genuine concern and kindness. For the first time in his career as a Queen's Guard, Thomas allowed his humanity to override his protocol, and the transformation was visible to everyone watching this extraordinary scene unfold. "Thank you very much, young lady," Thomas said quietly, his deep voice filled with sincere gratitude and emotion. "That's incredibly kind of you to think of me on such a warm day." The crowd gasped audibly as they witnessed the impossible. Queen's Guard breaking his silence and acknowledging a member of the public during his ceremonial duties. Phone cameras captured every second as this historic moment continued to develop. Thomas carefully reached down and accepted the bottle of cold water from Emma's small hands, his movements deliberate and graceful despite the weight of his ceremonial rifle and equipment. As his large gloved hand touched the cold bottle, he felt not just the physical relief of the cooling temperature, but also the warmth of human connection that had been missing from his rigid military routine for so many years. Emma's face lit up with pure joy and satisfaction as she realized her gesture had been accepted and appreciated. "My name is Emma," she said proudly, "and I'm visiting the Queen's house with my mummy and daddy. We came all the way from Wales just to see you and the other soldiers." "Are you very tired from standing so straight for such a long time?" Thomas found himself smiling, actually smiling for the first time while on duty. "It's wonderful to meet you, Emma. My name is Thomas, and yes, sometimes standing still for hours can be quite tiring. But meeting kind people like you makes the job much more enjoyable and meaningful." The crowd continued to grow as word spread throughout the tourist area that something unprecedented was happening at one of the guard posts. Emma clapped her hands, together with delight, thrilled that she had successfully helped someone who needed kindness. "I'm so happy you're not thirsty anymore, Mr. Thomas. My granny always says that helping others is the most important thing we can do. She would be very proud that I helped a soldier who protects the Queen. Do you think the Queen would like to meet me someday?" Thomas chuckled warmly, a sound that no tourist had ever heard from a Queen's Guard during ceremonial duties. "I think Her Majesty would be very impressed by your kindness and generosity. Emma, you have a wonderful heart, and the world needs more people like you who care about others and take action to help them when they see someone in need." The surrounding tourists were filming and photographing every moment of this incredible interaction, understanding that they were witnessing something truly special and historic. Social media notifications began pinging around the world as the first videos and photos were uploaded with captions like "Little girl melts, Queen's Guard's heart," and the most beautiful thing you'll see today. Emma's parents, Sarah and David, finally noticed what their daughter was doing and approached with a mixture of pride and concern. They had been looking for Emma when they realized she had wandered away, and they found her engaged in conversation with one of the most famously stoic soldiers in the world. David quickly began recording the interaction while Sarah watched with tears of pride in her eyes. I hope she hasn't caused any trouble, Sarah said apologetically to Thomas. Emma has always been very caring toward others, but we didn't expect her to approach one of the guards. She's just naturally compassionate and wants to help everyone she meets. Thomas shook his head with a warm smile that transformed his entire appearance from stern soldier to kind human being. She's caused no trouble at all, Thomas assured Emma's parents. In fact, she's brightened my entire day and reminded me of something very important that I had almost forgotten. Your daughter has a remarkable heart, and you should be incredibly proud of the way you've raised her to care about others, even strangers. Emma looked up at her parents with excitement and pride. I helped Mr. Thomas because he looked hot and thirsty, and he said the Queen would be proud of me for being kind. Can we come back tomorrow to visit him again and make sure he's not too tired? Her innocent question brought laughter and more tears from the growing crowd of observers who were witnessing this touching display of pure childhood compassion. Thomas knelt down to Emma's level, bringing himself face to face with the little girl who had changed his perspective on duty, service, and human connection. Emma, what you did today was truly special. You saw someone who needed help, and instead of just feeling sorry for them, you took action to make their situation better. That's what real heroes do, and you're definitely a hero in my book. Crowd erupted in spontaneous applause as they witnessed this beautiful moment between the stern guard and the compassionate child. Thomas stood up slowly, still holding the bottle of water that Emma had given him, and gave her a proper military salute. Another break from protocol that would be talked about for years to come. Emma giggled with delight and attempted to return the salute with her small hand, creating a moment of pure joy that touched the hearts of everyone present. Within hours of the encounter, videos and photos of Emma's interaction with Thomas had spread across every social media platform imaginable. The hashtag #QueensGuardKindness began trending worldwide as millions of people shared the heartwarming story of a little girl's simple act of compassion that had melted the heart of one of Britain's most stoic soldiers. News outlets from around the globe picked up the story, calling it the most beautiful moment of the year and a reminder of humanity in our troubled world. The original video, filmed by Emma's father David, showed the entire interaction from beginning to end. Viewers could see Emma's genuine concern for Thomas, her determination to help him, and his unprecedented response that broke decades of military protocol. The video accumulated millions of views within the first 24 hours, with comments pouring in from people of all ages and backgrounds who were touched by the display of pure kindness. Major television networks across Europe, America, Asia, and Australia featured the story on their morning and evening news programs. Talk show hosts discussed the meaning behind Emma's gesture and Thomas's response, with many calling it a perfect example of how small acts of kindness can have enormous impact. Child psychology experts appeared on news programs to discuss Emma's natural empathy and how parents could encourage similar compassion in their own children. The British royal family's official social media accounts shared the video with a message that read, "Her Majesty the Queen is delighted to see such wonderful kindness displayed outside her home." The compassion shown by young Emma and the gracious response from our guardsmen represent the very best of British values and human nature. This royal endorsement caused the story to explode even further across international media platforms. Thomas found himself at the center of a media storm, unlike anything he had ever experienced during his military career. His commanding officers initially expressed concern about his breach of protocol, but as the positive response grew and the story brought honor to the regiment and the crown, they began to view his actions as exemplary rather than problematic. The Public Relations Department of the British Army received hundreds of calls from journalists requesting interviews with the Guard, who had shown such humanity. Emma and her family were invited to appear on several television programs to discuss the encounter and Emma's motivation for helping the Guard. During these interviews, Emma's innocent wisdom and natural compassion shone through as she explained her simple philosophy. If someone looks sad, or tired, or hot, you should try to help them feel better. That's what nice people do. Her words resonated with viewers around the world who were inspired by such pure, uncomplicated kindness. The ice cream vendor, Mr. Ahmed, who had given Emma the free bottle of water for Thomas, also became part of the viral story. When reporters learned about his role in helping Emma's mission of kindness, he was celebrated as another example of everyday people choosing to support compassion and generosity. His business experienced a significant boost as tourists specifically sought out his ice cream cart to meet the man who had helped make the beautiful moment possible. Buckingham Palace experienced an unprecedented influx of visitors following the viral video. Tour companies reported that bookings for London trips had increased dramatically, with many tourists specifically requesting to see where the little girl helped the guard. The Palace gift shop began selling commemorative items featuring Emma's quote about helping others, with proceeds going to children's charities across the United Kingdom. Thomas received thousands of letters and messages from people around the world, thanking him for his gracious response to Emma's kindness. Many letters came from military personnel who expressed pride in seeing a fellow soldier demonstrate both professional excellence and human compassion. Veterans wrote to share their own stories of moments when small acts of kindness had sustained them during difficult times of service. Emma's school in Wales invited her to give a presentation to her classmates about her experience at Buckingham Palace. Her teacher used Emma's story as a lesson about empathy, kindness, and the importance of helping others regardless of their position or status in life. The presentation was so inspiring that other schools across the country began using Emma's example in their character education programs. The story also sparked discussions about the balance between military protocol and human connection. Military historians and behavioral experts debated whether Thomas's response represented a positive evolution in ceremonial duties or a dangerous precedent that could undermine the dignity and tradition of the Queen's Guard. However, the overwhelmingly positive public response suggested that most people valued the display of humanity over strict adherence to protocol. Emma's parents received offers for book deals, documentary features, and speaking engagements about raising compassionate children in modern society. While they carefully considered these opportunities, Sarah and David remained focused on ensuring that the tension didn't overwhelm their daughter or change her naturally caring personality. They wanted Emma to continue being the same kind, thoughtful child she had always been. The viral video was translated into dozens of languages and shared by celebrities, politicians, religious leaders, and ordinary people who found hope and inspiration in Emma's simple gesture. Comment sections filled with stories from viewers, sharing their own experiences of unexpected kindness and expressing determination to look for more opportunities to help others in their daily lives. Thomas and Emma exchanged letters over the following weeks, with Thomas encouraging Emma to continue her compassionate nature and Emma sending him drawings of soldiers and palaces. These letters, when shared with permission from both families, further endeared both individuals to the public and demonstrated that their connection extended beyond a single moment of viral fame into a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and kindness. 6 months after the viral encounter, Emma and her family received a very special invitation that would create another unforgettable moment. The royal household formally invited Emma to attend a private tea ceremony at Buckingham Palace, where she would have the opportunity to meet Queen Elizabeth II herself. The invitation, written on official palace letterhead, stated that Her Majesty wished to personally thank Emma for her demonstration of kindness and British values that had touched hearts around the world. Emma could hardly contain her excitement when her parents read the invitation aloud. The little girl who had simply wanted to help a hot, tired guard was now being invited to meet the Queen of England in the very palace where her act of kindness had taken place. She immediately began planning what she would wear, what she would say to the Queen, and whether she could bring her favorite teddy bear to the meeting. Thomas was also invited to attend the special ceremony, along with several other guards who had been on duty that memorable day. He would be honored with a special commendation for his demonstration of both professional excellence and human compassion. The military leadership had concluded that Thomas's response to Emma's gesture had actually enhanced the reputation of the Queen's Guard rather than diminishing it, showing that strength and kindness could coexist beautifully. On the day of the ceremony, Emma arrived at Buckingham Palace wearing her finest dress, a beautiful blue outfit that matched her sparkling eyes. She carried a small bouquet of flowers that she had picked from her grandmother's garden in Wales. Wanting to give something special to the Queen, Thomas stood at attention in his dress uniform, polished to perfection and proud to represent his regiment at this unprecedented event. Queen Elizabeth II, known for her own acts of quiet kindness throughout her long reign, was genuinely delighted to meet Emma face to face. The monarch, approaching her mid-90s but still sharp and engaging, immediately put Emma at ease with her warm smile and gentle manner. "My dear Emma," the Queen said, "I have heard so much about your kind heart and generous spirit. You have shown the world what it truly means to care for others." Emma, despite her young age, remembered her manners perfectly as she had practiced with her parents. She curtsied politely and presented the Queen with her bouquet of flowers, explaining that she had grown them herself with her grandmother's help. "I wanted to give you something beautiful, Your Majesty, because you take care of all the people in our country, and that must be very hard work sometimes." The Queen was visibly moved by Emma's thoughtful gesture and innocent wisdom. During their private conversation, Emma asked the Queen if being a queen was tiring, if her crown was heavy, and whether she ever got sad when people weren't kind to each other. The Queen answered each question with patience and genuine interest. Clearly charmed by Emma's natural curiosity and empathy, Thomas had his own moment with the Queen, receiving formal recognition for his exemplary service and his gracious handling of an unprecedented situation. The Queen thanked him for demonstrating that strength and compassion were not contradictory qualities, and for showing the world that even the most traditional institutions could embrace moments of human connection without losing their dignity or purpose. The ceremony was photographed by the official royal photographer, creating images that would become iconic representations of kindness transcending protocol. Emma's favorite photo showed her sitting beside the Queen, both of them laughing. It's something funny that Emma had said about her teddy bear's opinion of Palace's life. The Queen had insisted that the teddy bear be included in several photographs. Understanding its importance to Emma, following the palace visit, Emma's story continued to inspire charitable initiatives around the world. A foundation was established in her name to promote random acts of kindness among children, providing resources and recognition for young people who demonstrated exceptional compassion toward others. The Foundation's first project involved installing water stations near tourist attractions, where guards and workers stood for long periods. Directly inspired by Emma's original gesture, Thomas became an ambassador for the Foundation, speaking at schools and community events about the importance of acknowledging kindness and responding to it appropriately. His military perspective, combined with his personal experience of receiving unexpected compassion, made him an effective advocate for creating more opportunities for human connection in formal and professional settings. Emma grew up to become a social worker, dedicating her career to helping others just as she had helped Thomas on that warm day outside Buckingham Palace. She often spoke about how one small gesture had taught her that anyone, regardless of age or position, could make a meaningful difference in someone else's life. Her childhood experience became the foundation for a lifetime of service to others. The story of Emma and Thomas was eventually turned into a children's book that became a bestseller in multiple countries. The book taught young readers about empathy, courage, and the power of small acts of kindness to create positive change in the world. Emma donated all her proceeds from the book to children's hospitals, staying true to her generous nature even as an adult. Years later, when Thomas retired from active duty, he was appointed as a special advisor on community relations for the royal household. His role involved finding ways to bridge the gap between formal royal protocol and meaningful public engagement, using the lessons he had learned from his encounter with Emma to create more opportunities for authentic human connection within traditional ceremonial duties. The video of Emma's original gesture remained one of the most watched and most shared positive news stories of all time. Even decades later, people continued to discover and share the heartwarming footage, introducing new generations to the timeless message that kindness knows no boundaries, and that sometimes the most powerful moments occur when protocol gives way to human compassion. The simple act of a 5-year-old girl offering water to a thirsty guard had created ripples of kindness that continued spreading around the world, proving that no gesture of compassion is ever too small to make a lasting difference.